guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. My name is Emma and happy Halloween. For today's video, we're building a house that's based on a house where a double murder took place in the late 1800s. This is a trigger warning. If you don't like true crime, you don't like the retelling of crime, please don't watch this video because I'm going to be reading about this crime for you guys and going through the story. So if you can't handle true crime or you get triggered easily, then do not watch this video. But if you love true crime like me, then please stay tuned and enjoy. I am going to be reading from an article. I just didn't have the time to write my own narrative, which I would have preferred to do, but I will credit that in the description down below. Enjoy the video, guys. Early on the morning of August 4th, 1892, the Borden household was alive with activity, though the youngest daughter, Lizzie Borden, slept in. The maid, a respectable Irish immigrant by the name of Bridget Sullivan, served breakfast to the patriarch, Andrew, and his wife Abby, as usual. The eldest Borden daughter, Emma, was away visiting friends. Lizzie Borden, an unmarried 32-year-old Sunday school teacher, was the last to join her family, coming downstairs after her uncle, John Morse, who had arrived unexpectedly for a visit the day before, left the house. Lizzie Borden decided against eating breakfast. Her father, Andrew, decided to go downtown Fall River, Massachusetts, where the family lived, at around 9 in the morning. It would be the last time he left his home alive. The Bordens were prosperous, and their patriarch served on the boards of several banks while working as a commercial landlord. In her husband's absence, Abby went upstairs to make the bed where Morse had slept the night before. She would leave the room only one more time, looking for fresh pillowcases. Meanwhile, Andrew had returned home. The maid let him in, and Lizzie came downstairs, claiming that Mrs. Borden had left the house after receiving a note saying that a friend was sick. Lizzie and Emma always referred to Abby, their stepmother, with whom they had an unfriendly relationship, as Mrs. Borden. Her father believed the story and retreated to his room, where he would remain for only a few minutes before coming back downstairs and settling on a sofa in the sitting room. Sullivan, who was not feeling well, she reported throwing up that morning, perhaps from the flu that had travelled around the house days prior, went to rest in her room where she fell asleep. According to Sullivan's testimony during Lizzie Borden's trial, she only awoke when she heard Lizzie screaming that her father was dead. Lizzie Borden later said that she found her father dead, sprawled out on the couch and covered in blood, his face so badly disfigured that he was unrecognizable. After the screaming, Sullivan ran to fetch the doctor and a neighborhood friend of Lizzie's, but the commotion had attracted the attention of neighbors who summoned the police. At this point, Abby's whereabouts were still unknown. Lizzie Borden told the gathering crowd of concerned neighbors the same story she told her father, that her stepmother had received a note asking her to leave the house. Lizzie also mentioned that her parents had been ill in the previous days and that she suspected their milk had been poisoned. After returning with a local doctor, Bridget checked for Abby upstairs, where she found her limp body lying face down in a pool of her own blood. Abby Borden had been struck 19 times with a hatchet. Andrew had been hit 11 times with the same weapon. One of Andrew's eyes had been cut in half and his nose had been completely severed from his face. Abby's blood was dark and congealed, leading the neighborhood doctor, Bowen, to believe that she had been killed first. The county medical examiner, Dr. Dolan, looked at the bodies after Bowen. Later, Dolan would have the Borden stomachs removed and tested. No evidence that the couple had been poisoned was ever found. At first, the police did not suspect Lizzie Borden. After all, she was a spinster from a respected and well-off family, and Lizzie swore to District Attorney Hosier Knowlton that she was in the barn looking for a piece of iron when the attacks took place. In the days after the murders, an abundance of clues that all led to dead ends confused the investigation even further. A bloody hatchet was found on a neighboring farm, but it had been used to kill chickens. A man seen wandering around the Borden's property had an airtight alibi for the time of the murders. Even Sullivan was a suspect before the police finally zeroed in on Lizzie. But there was no physical evidence, not even a bloody scrap of clothing to implicate Lizzie. It was just that no one else could have done it. The timeline doesn't make any sense any other way. If Abby was killed early in the morning, the murderer, if it wasn't Lizzie or Sullivan, would have hidden in the house for several hours waiting for Andrew's return. He or she would have risked being spotted by Lizzie or Sullivan. And what about the note Lizzie claimed her stepmother received? Abby had clearly never made it out of the house, so where was it? Lizzie told her friend Alice Russell that her stepmother may have accidentally burned it. Eventually, investigators also discovered that the day before the murders took place, Lizzie had tried to buy prussic acid, otherwise known as cyanide, from a drugstore, but the clerk said she needed a prescription before she could purchase it. That evening, Lizzie visited Russell. In her testimony at the inquest, Russell said that Lizzie was anxious that someone might be threatening her father. She confided that these enemies might want to hurt her family. A few days after the murders, Russell saw Lizzie burning one of her dresses at the stove in her house. When Russell asked her why she was destroying the dress, Lizzie said that it was stained and could no longer be worn. After Russell revealed this incident at the inquest, the presiding judge charged Lizzie Borden with the murders. The trial of Lizzie Borden lasted 14 days. It was a media sensation. Newspaper headlines screamed, "Lizzie Borden defense opens." Reporters from Boston and New York crowded the courtroom day after day. They called it the Great Trial. Though Lizzie never testified during the trial, she was still the star of the show. At one point, a piece of tissue paper covering the skull of her father fell to the floor. Lizzie caught sight of the bludgeoned skull and fainted. But presenting the skulls of the murdered Bordens turned out in Lizzie's favor. Her lawyer reasoned that whoever caused such extreme damage must have been covered in blood after the incident, but Lizzie's clothes were perfectly clean. This has led some to believe that she committed the murders naked. The defense was able to produce witnesses who saw Lizzie leave the barn at the time of the murders, or who claimed to see strange characters lurking around the property, enough, at least, to create reasonable doubt for Lizzie's guilt. The defense was also able to have the drugstore clerk's testimony that Lizzie had tried to buy poison dismissed on the basis that it was irrelevant and prejudicial. On June 19th, Lizzie was found not guilty of murdering Andrew and Abby. She and her sister Emma, who inherited their father's estate, bought a house in the fashionable part of Fall River. The sisters lived peacefully at Fall River until 1904, when Lizzie Borden, now calling herself Lisbeth, met an actress named Nance O'Neill. The pair formed a strong bond. Some speculate they were lovers, but Emma did not approve. 2 years after Lizzie met Nance, Emma moved out of the house that they shared. Lizzie Borden lived out the rest of her days in relative quiet and privacy before dying in 1927 at the age of 67. She took whatever secrets she had about the murders of her parents to her grave, but that hasn't stopped obsessed followers of her story from forming theories of their own. Some think Andrew's illegitimate son, William, committed the crime, and that Lizzie and Emma conspired to cover up his involvement, or more likely, that the two sisters made the plans while Lizzie alone carried out the actual murder. Others think that Lizzie and Sullivan were having an affair and murdered the Bordens together. In 2012, journals kept by Lizzie's lawyer Andrew Jackson Jennings were obtained by the Fall River Historical Society. The journals revealed that Jennings' direct observations of his client, who history remembers as cold-blooded and callous, but Jennings saw a sensitive side to Lizzie, a woman grieving for her loss. The notebooks did not, however, bring the public any closer to knowing who actually killed the Bordens. The murders of Andrew and Abby Borden continue to fascinate the public more than 100 years after Lizzie Borden's acquittal. People continue to flock to Fall River, Massachusetts to visit the site of the murders, which has now been turned into a museum chronicling the history of the murders. Some visitors claim that the house is still haunted by the ghosts of Andrew and Abby Borden, and that one thing everyone can agree on is that the grisly murders, the sensational Lizzie Borden trial, and the unsolved debate about the true identity of the murder continues to fascinate as one of America's most notorious murder cases of all time. Alright guys, so that's the little reading I have of the Borden case. I've also heard theories that John Morse, the uncle, may have been involved in the murder as well. Maybe he was having an affair with with Sullivan, the maid, who they called Maggie. Interestingly enough, even though her name was Bridget, they called her Maggie. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, that him and Bridget Sullivan conspired together to murder them. I don't know. I speculate that it was probably an outsider. I don't know. I feel like... So this was brought up. I listened to a true crime podcast about it. No, this was actually in... So I listened to Crime Drunkie's true crime podcast about this, and I watched the BuzzFeed Unsolved video on YouTube. And I think it was in the BuzzFeed Unsolved video that they brought up the fact that if Lizzie had committed the murders, how on earth would she have had time to change? Think about how difficult it was to put dresses on in those days, like the types of dresses people wore in the 1800s. Like, just think about that. Like, how would she have had time to change after committing two very, extremely bloody murders? You think 19 times and another 11 times that they were hacked to death? Think about how much blood that, would have put all over her. I don't know. It would have been in her hair, dude. I'm sure of it. It would have been hard to, clean herself off before alerting the maid, Bridget Sullivan, and then the neighbors and doctor and whatever. I don't know. I just don't think it was her. I think it was a crime of opportunity, perhaps, or maybe it was something to do with the father, Andrew's work, and he maybe pissed off the wrong people. I don't know. I don't think it was Lizzie, though. I just don't. I don't know. You guys, if you listen this far, let me know what you think. So, in this build, I just want to talk about the build for a second. So, Andrew was found downstairs on the very first couch that I put in the thing. And then Abby was found in the guest bedroom. And I kept putting the guest bedroom in the wrong room. And eventually I changed it. So it's the room closest to the front of the house on the second floor. That's where Abby was found. So you do see me moving it from one room to the next, the bed and dressing table setup, because that's what it looks like in the crime scene photos. So I did try to keep this house as realistic as possible. So I looked up floor plans and stuff on the internet. So all the rooms are as they should be. As far as the furniture goes, obviously, Sims doesn't have a lot of old-fashioned stuff. I used a lot of supernatural. I did the best I could. But there are some modern touches, the plants, for example, look pretty modern. But I just felt like I didn't want to clutter it up too much, but I just felt like I could do with some plants. Also, I'm doing the kitchen now, and I do put in a fridge, and I don't think fridges existed in the 1890s. But I did put in a fridge, just because, maybe someone's going to want to download this, and it's, now still usable. I mean, the stove's very nice and old-fashioned, and, I had this cool thing from around The Sims, an old-fashioned wash bucket thing for clothes and stuff, which I put in the sort of laundry room area. Also, I don't think that they were I don't think that they were bathrooms inside the house back in the 1800s, but there were two rooms upstairs. One was labeled in the floor plans as the clothes room, and the other one was labeled as, in one floor plan it was labeled as Abby's room, and in another floor plan it was labeled as her dressing room. But I couldn't really find the use for those, so I just turned those into bathrooms again to make this lot usable, functional for a family if you so choose. So it pretty much has everything you need. It doesn't have TV, and also I made sure that the lights and stuff were all kind of old-fashioned-y, candle type vibes. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. I'm really glad that I was inspired to do this and that I just got it done. This is the most excited I've been about my channel for like the last couple weeks. So yeah, stoked. Yeah, I'm gonna leave you here. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. I would appreciate that greatly. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, whether your thoughts on the house or your thoughts on the crime, who you think did it. And yeah, please subscribe if you would like to see more. It would make me very, very grateful to have you join the family. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Goodbye.